I'm Vickie Perez-Segovia.
And I'm Jessica Bishop.
And you're listening to Through Dangers Untold, a monthly art podcast about traversing the precarious gap between art school and a professional, sustainable art career. And what are we working on this week, Vickie?
So this week I'm kind of like in between a bunch of things. I have been getting back to bookbinding because I'm finally going through all of my sort of like quote unquote found materials, aka all the cardboard and like craft and packaging paper that I've hoarded over the years and finally making them into books.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And
Sounds so
then
fun.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy bookbinding a lot. It's very therapeutic and it benefits my business. Um I had an idea for some fan art because I recently was rewatching Total Forgiveness on Dropout, and I'm making some fan art for Pride Month of Grant O'Brien and Allie Beardsley because I love them both.
Nice.
What are you guys doing?
Jess?
I'm working on a new painting, but I don't really want to talk about it too much because then I'll jinx it and it'll be ugly.
Not
Okay.
true, but I can respect it.
No, it's totally true. It happens to me all the time. So I can't talk about it too much. It's a lot more complicated than what I've done in the past. So
Okay.
it might be a little bit. I'm also trying to like build up some stock, like ordering some prints, all that fun stuff. Yeah, and that's about it.
Nice.
Sonnett.
I am getting ready for my first outdoor show. I'm going to be doing, Custer Street this Saturday and Sunday. It's a wonderful fair. We go every year. It's really fun. Great for families, lots of bands, lots of good food, lots of great stuff to buy. It's always really lovely. And so I'm really excited I'm going to be a part of it this year. And so, yeah, setting up my tent and trying out my setup and getting all my stock in bags of boards and just getting all ready and trying not to get too nervous about it.
You got this. It's going to be awesome.
I'm excited. It should be a really fun time.
Yeah. You're going to do wonderfully.
Thank you.
Yes, you will.
Thank you. But yes, so tonight we are talking about perfectionism versus professionalism, and also just kind of talking about professionalism in general. Do we want to start with maybe talking about perfectionism first?
Sure.
And Vickie, did you want to start it off?
Sure. So I guess overall, like even when comparing the two, but I can start with perfectionism. Um, I guess my experience with it is, or the main thing that I did want to talk about is how kind of like I feel like the idea of being a perfectionist is something that a lot of artists have, and it's like, well, it can be like a good fuel and like motivator to like go forward and like do well and like refine our work. It's very much like a double-edged sword because it can cause a lot of anxiety for us. It can prevent us from like finishing work. It can prevent us from, kind of like officially releasing work or publishing work because we sit on things. And so it can become a very slippery slope of like just stress and just like never finishing, and I think it can fuel a lot of procrastination.
Mm-hmm.
And so it can definitely become like dangerous. Uh but yeah, it's something that like I definitely deal with in terms of just like, oh, I have this idea for a project, and it's like when I have an idea, like when I first come up with an idea, my mind just like runs with it. It's it's rarely ever just like sometimes I'll have this kind of like little fun brain fart ideas, but it's like oftentimes I have an idea and I'm just like, ooh, this would be really cool. And immediately my mind's like, oh, and I can do this thing, and then I can do this with it, and I can do this with it, and A, B, and C. And then it's like my mind in like 2 minutes tries to plot the rest of my career based off of this one idea
Mm.
and like how it's gonna work.
Huh.
And then I'm just like, yeah, I'll put that aside. I'm never actually going to get around to doing that.
Oh no.
Just because it's like my mind just runs wild with like, ooh, and I can use this thing, and I can like make it better by doing this. It's like I'm already trying to improve an idea for something that I haven't even started.
Right.
And I think that's where like perfectionism like just messes me up because I'm just constantly like, oh, how can I improve this? How can I make this better? How can I push it? Which is great when you're making work, but it's like you should keep the mentality while you're making work and know when to stop and when to kind of like share it with other people for feedback.
Yeah.
Because our own perfectionism gets in the way of kind of like seeing our art through other people's eyes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
That is my rant.
It's a good rant.
I mean, that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
it's like that thing where every time you make something new, once you finish it, you see everything you could have done better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though, like, before you finished it, you were like, this is really great. And then as soon as you say you're done, you're like, man, could have done it better.
Yeah.
Oh, for me, it's the middle section.
Mm-hmm.
When I hit that ugly middle stage of every painting, I'm like, this is trash. I hate it forever. It needs to die.
Yeah.
You know, that's where my perfectionism, I have to really fight it because it's like, you need to push through. You'll get through this. You'll like it again once you get through this stage. You know, and then I'll see the things I need to work on after too. But like, that middle stage is the hardest for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the biggest sort of I don't want to say antidote or cure, but I guess one of the best things to combat perfectionism kind of festering is learning to step away from pieces and
step away from pieces and take a break.
A lot of artists have is like wanting to like well, like for me, for example, is that like because I know I have a terrible attention span, I have a really hard time finishing things or seeing something through. So in my mind, I'm just like, if I can just sit here for like, if I can just give myself another hour and see if I can finish it. Okay, no, the hour passes and I'm just like, okay, I'll give myself one more, you know, and it's like I end up exhausting myself and I'm just like, oh, but it doesn't look right. I just need to fix this one last thing or something. And it's like I end up just fully exhausting myself and going insane because I can't figure out why it doesn't look right, you know? And it's like, it's 3 a.m. and I'm like, this looks awful, you know? I'm like, and I don't know why. And then I just freak out and I'm crying and I'm just start crying out loud. And he's just like, I literally don't know what's happening.
Oh no.
And I'm just like, it's so bad. And I mean, he usually knows well enough to just be like, you need to go to sleep and just take a break and just, you know, stop.
Right.
Breaks are life.
Seriously.
Yeah. I think I think taking breaks honestly saves so much art.
It really does. Because you'll go away and you'll get some toasts or something. Or maybe that's me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm gonna get some toast.
Get some toast. Very specific.
Or I'll get some tea. I'll get some coffee. I'll come back. And my eyes have adjusted. They were too close to it. And I'm like, oh, that's what I needed. That's the thing.
I'll walk away and like play video games and then go back.
Nice.
Yeah.
Not everyone can do that, but like.
Yeah, it's like find the thing that's gonna like feel good for you to kind of like fully remove your mind from it.
Exactly.
You know?
And then it's so much easier to go back and evaluate what you were worried about.
Yeah, fresh
Yeah.
eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Or like taking a break and not picking it up again until tomorrow, like
Yeah.
switching projects, or just,
Mm-hmm.
having like a firm cutoff at night for me helps.
Yeah.
Sometimes I break it, but only if like I really need to break it.
Right.
Or like
Right.
I really have this like idea and I need to do it. Um, but yeah, I think that, yeah, there's ways.
Yeah, I wanted to expand on getting stuck. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
a big one. And um I think we've probably talked about this before, but when I was growing up, I was I'm still a lot of a perfectionist, but I was a worse
Mm-hmm.
perfectionist. And
Mm-hmm.
I would just draw every drawing I drew in my sketchbook was a finished drawing. I didn't really understand the concept of actually sketching things. It was
Wow.
all finished pencil work, fully shaded.
That's crazy.
It's insane. So I didn't really finish very many sketchbooks until
Mm.
college, and I think we talked about this. I got into
Yeah.
figure drawing, and then they're like, "Oh, draw 100 drawings in your sketchbook," and I was like, "Oh, oh,
Like what?
that's how it's supposed to work."
Yeah.
You're supposed to draw a lot of shitty stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it. And that helped
Yeah.
me get out of my rut, at least with sketchbook stuff. Well, actually, in general, in all of my pieces, of realizing that you just have to keep doing. You just have to keep, if this piece sucks, do the next one, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yeah.
Yeah.
keep moving. Learn from it, keep moving, you know?
Yeah. For sure.
It's
So,
important not to dwell.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there's always another
Absolutely.
piece. Yeah, it can't, each piece can't be the be all end all of your pieces.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be the ultimate masterpiece. You have to just like think of it as something you're just sketching and moving on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
You
have
know?
a really hard time with that.
Oh, really?
Um, yeah, like for me, like when I make something that I think is the best thing I've done yet,
Mm-hmm.
like I put way too much pressure on myself to like continue that like streak.
Oh, yeah.
But then it's not possible.
Yeah.
So then I get really down when I make the next piece and I don't think it's as good.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
That's really
probably like
stressful.
more sad than I should, because like I'm sure typically those pieces aren't bad,
Mm-hmm.
It's
Right.
just
Right.
like,
They're just
yeah,
not meeting the expectations you're putting on yourself.
exactly. And I feel like so much external pressure, like, well, I can't like put this online, or like I will and they'll delete it because I'm like, it wasn't good enough. Like, so I don't want to like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like that whole mentality of you're only as good as your worst thing.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
So that's like something I think about a lot.
I I think my mind goes in the opposite direction with like having kind of like really high expectations of yourself. I mean, and it's one of those things that kind of comes from like, like upbringing, is that like for me, I'm like it's more like you're only as good as your best thing, and but it's like but my best is nowhere near where I think it should be.
I feel the
And so
same, Vickie,
yeah, and
about my
and so
work.
it's like yeah, so it's like I need to constantly be like, okay, it's like how can I make this like way better? And I
Mm-hmm.
think that kind of need to like be at this ideal that I have in my head makes me fall into this trap of just like, oh, it's like I'm gonna get inspiration from whatever artist that I like, and it's like, oh, but like, how can I do it like this person? How can I do it like that artist? But it's just like I don't give myself enough credit for like developing my own style or for the work that I have created, and that's something that I've been trying to get
Yes.
better about.
Yes.
Um, Especially when it comes to style. Um, just because like I'm trying to like get into comics, and it's like a lot of, the biggest, well-known, most famous comic artists are known for their style. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like for me, it's like I think there's always this pressure in the back of my head of just like, but I need to have a style of just like I need to figure out, what works for me, what's good, and like how to refine it. And I get too stuck on like, oh, but how does this person do it? How did that person develop it? Instead of just letting my style evolve kind of organically.
Yeah. Yep. It's easy to get
Yeah,
caught up in that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think like that's the most freeing thing when you can like finally figure out like or like stop trying to subconsciously put yourself like or pigeonhole yourself
Mm-hmm.
into something.
Yeah.
Um and that's I just want to say that whole style thing is silly.
Yeah. No, it
Like how like
absolutely, yeah.
worked up people get other people about it. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're like everyone's going to figure that out. And
Yeah.
like the only way that you make your own style is by originally copying everyone else's.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's all
Well,
I'll say. I'm done.
well, and also I think it also comes from doing your own work, just doing it, just
Yeah.
doing
Oh,
that,
yeah, of course. But
the
like
art.
over time, of course, like, you're gonna like be inspired and copy what other people do, and then eventually
Mm-hmm.
all that blends together and you have your own thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Like I drew like how many people like grow up and like draw anime when they're kids?
So many.
Right.
Like that was me.
Yeah.
So you can do it, Vickie. Okay. Tangent
Yeah.
over.
Thank you. Yeah, like that's I think where I was definitely more stuck in that before, but I think I'm definitely doing better with it where it's like I'm just like letting myself just make art, and it's just like just make your shit, just do it,
I
Nice.
you
see
know?
that in your like most recent stuff you've been posting.
Yeah.
Like like the past like maybe year or so, like your stuff has been looking more like you can look at it and be like, yeah, it looks like Vickie made it.
A bit more rough, but it was there. Like it was always there, you know?
It
Yeah.
totally.
Yep. It's like you're
Um
revealing it
mhm.
as you
And
do it.
I think that's the case for most, artists, where it's just like you just kind of got to trust your, and I know that's so hard to
Yes.
do as an
That is
artist.
the hardest part. Hold fast to
That's
those
awesome.
things, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Your heart knows. And that's
And
so
now
dumb to
a
say.
song.
Yeah, like it's super like like your heart knows.
You should break into song now.
It's the
Yeah.
musical edition.
This
Good
is
lord.
a long-awaited musical episode.
That's a very special musical episode edition. Oh no. On the opposite, so to balance things out, I think it's important to talk about finish because I know myself, I struggle a lot. I'm like, okay, how far do I take this? How many revisions do I do here on this piece? How much do I fiddle with this to bring it up to a level of polish that I think is professional?
I feel this.
You know?
Yeah.
And then when am I overworking it? When have I just needed to stop? Stop, let it go on to another piece, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I ask that question for every painting. You know?
I
Do you
have
the
a personal
same?
anecdote for this.
Oh, please,
Yeah.
please.
Surprisingly. Okay.
Please tell us.
So I went on a job interview once, and this was the hardest interview I've ever had in my. And spoiler alert, I did not get offered the job. But it was for an art job, and like basically they took a look at my portfolio, and they came prepared with questions for me, like about the art, and they were like, look, a lot of your stuff isn't super polished. Like, why, like, your stuff is more concepty than it is polished, finished work. Like, can you explain why?
Oh,
I
wow.
was like, dang. And I was a little younger at the time, and like,
Yeah.
that was a very scary question for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered it right or well. I think what I basically said was, well, as someone who's making most of these pieces for myself, I kind of have the luxury of talking to myself about when I want to be done with that piece.
Uh-huh.
But also it comes from like a different background. So like that
Yeah.
job was for like doing very polished like casino assets.
Oh, wow.
Which like I could have done, but of course like my portfolio, like coming from such a more traditional background, like a traditional artistic background, like I don't go into super zoom mode and try to make everything super shiny and polished.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's like a thing, especially in like the video game like art community.
Yeah, it's like concept art is about mood. It's like you're not gonna get.
Completely. I mean, that's a whole nother topic because I can get into
Yeah.
photo bashing and everything and the different things
Uh-huh.
in that aspect of work.
Yeah.
And I would talk forever, but
It's the Jess episode.
I'm taking notes, yeah, for
No,
what the next
no.
episode is gonna be.
Jess talks about
We don't
concept
do
art.
Jess episode.
We like it. Come on.
We just do like Jess listens and interject angry comments episode.
Need more Jess. Always.
Aw. But yeah, I mean, this just came up the other day. I don't remember if I was talking to both you or just Sonnett, but I was going through and looking at all mostly the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood and like their art and oh, if anyone listening wants a really good art resource, that Google Arts and Culture website, all their cataloged items that they have available from museums, you can zoom in,
Nice.
look in like extreme detail at all these pieces of work, and I love doing that because if you've never been to an art museum or something, one, this great resource, and it's when you're trained traditionally, as you guys know, like a lot of the things is you step back from your work to see how it looks. And it's so true because you take these old paintings and you up close at them, and not just old paintings, all paintings really, and they're just so messy. Like
Sweet
tight,
Jesus.
they're messy.
Yeah.
I'm on the website now. Sorry, I've never visited this website.
It is my favorite resource.
Thank you for bringing this up. Oh my god, this
they even
face
do,
is so goofy.
They even do like museum walkthrough stuff.
Yeah.
It's really excellent. I use it all the time for references because I use a lot of like art history pieces for my references. But yeah, so a lot of they're controlled and tight, and you see a lot of mark making, but they're still very like messy.
Yeah.
I've gone on a tangent.
No.
That totally makes sense, and I fully agree.
And like depending on the type of work you're doing and what kind of client you have to think about that level of polish.
Yeah.
And like what is acceptable. And my work, like if you zoom in on it, like it's really like parts of it are pretty polished, but other parts are just like, here's a blob.
Right.
And I think like it comes down to like knowing your client and knowing what kind of like look they're expecting, because there's a big difference between making a vector polished illustration or something close to a vector and doing a painting. And But yeah, I think that perfectionism, especially when working like for someone else,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's important to kind of try to gauge that.
Yes,
Yeah,
Um,
that makes sense.
but yeah,
I agree. Yeah, like I think the idea of kind of like learning to maintain professionalism, it can mean a lot of things for different people, and just kind of like what you were saying, if you're applying for jobs, it's like people are going to expect different things when they think professional, and it depends on
Yes.
yes,
what position you're applying for, like even kind of like is using the example you gave, it's like in games, it's like if you're a concept artist versus an asset artist, it's like you're going to have a very different quality of work, not necessarily that one is greater than the other, but it's like it's just going to be different things.
Right.
yep,
Like it's almost hard to compare them because it's like the the expectation of the finished product is different. It's so different for each one. Um and like I think what kind of helps keep me uh I guess motivated to, like finish work and have kind of like current work to present to people, like especially as like an artist that like does tables and festivals and whatnot. For me, I'm like, okay, what, like, where on the spectrum of like what I want my art to be, and, you know, like what I need people to see, where on that spectrum can I land and like be happy with, sort of finishing something and being like okay, this isn't exactly where I would love for this to be, but it's like I feel like it represents what I do.
Nice.
And I think having kind of like, I'm trying to figure out the best way to phrase it, because I don't necessarily want to encourage people to not have high expectations of themselves, because I think that's a strong motivator, but don't get stuck in your high expectations, because it's going to be kind of like that thing that you're always chasing. It's
Right.
like we're never going to be happy with what we make. We have to just kind of keep going and keep making, and just like we have to put out there what we do have,
Right.
because in our minds like it's never going to be good enough. Um
yes,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like other people and like our audiences don't see it that way. It's like they see our work, and they it's like they see the amount of time and love that we put into our work, and they're like, wow. It's like what always encourages me honestly is showing my stuff to other people, especially people that are just interested in the type of thing that I'm doing. Like I tell them about it, or I share some of my work, and they're like, oh wow, this sounds awesome, oh these characters look great or whatever, and I'm just like, thank you, I spent so much time working on them. And it's like they still don't feel finished, but it's like I'm glad I'm getting a response
Yeah.
as opposed to just being in my head, you
R-
know.
Right. Right. Because that can be very different. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's hard for us to get out of our heads sometimes because we're
Yeah.
artists and we're there and we're analyzing and we're struggling. Um, and like you said, once you get in front of people or with customers, and you're there,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't know. A lot of times, they don't even know how these things are made.
Right.
They don't know how many hours we've put into it,
Right.
or how we've struggled with what's done and what's not, and you're getting a really genuine, honest response.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's super refreshing.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly with that, you're not always going to get enlightened responses.
No.
You're definitely going to get the people who are just like, oh, well, it costs this much, and it's just like, well, go away. First off, like first of all. but but also it's like that's where like you, not to be art school about this, but that's where like you learn to kind of like defend your art and be like, oh well, like this is where this piece comes from, this is this, like this is kind of what I'm about as an artist. This is my process and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, even if they don't appreciate it, it's like you're still kind of making them understand that like there is a process, there is work that's being put into this.
Right.
And I think it makes it that much more rewarding when you're talking with people that do like your art, where they're just like, oh my god, I don't understand how people can make this, it's amazing, blah blah blah. And it's like you can explain your process to them and they're just like, what? Like, you're a wizard. It's like for some people, it's like it's just mind-boggling. I mean, because like I know that's how I am with like friends who are very kind of like musically inclined or musically skilled. It's like I love music, I love listening to music, and like I do kind of wish, I'd pursued it a little bit more when I was younger. But it's just like for me, it's like the idea of playing an instrument just boggles my mind. And it's like seeing, that there's people that, it's like whether it's just covering songs or like composing music, it's just like do you it's like how does your brain even any of this? And it's like I can appreciate positive feedback from other people when they respond to my work. I think I'm better at it now just because I know that I have had similar responses to other people's work, even other visual artists, where it's like, man, it's like I've seen you in process, like while you're working, or like I've seen a video online of you, working on this thing, and it's like it's awesome how you do this. And it's like for some people, it's like, yeah, it's like cool, like it's not that big of a deal, like I do this all the time. But it's like for people who don't work the way you do, it's like, man, it's like you found a way to do it.
Right.
And that's awesome, you know? And I don't know where exactly I was going, but I think partly is that I think consuming art, I think help and kind of like appreciating it and being fans of other artists helps us appreciate the people that enjoy those stuff we make.
Yes.
And I think that is a good motivation to continue making stuff and just like put stuff out there as it is. It's like even if stuff isn't perfect, if it represents what you're making right now, go for it.
Yeah.
Like just do it. Just put it out there. If people don't like it, it's fine. You're gonna keep making more stuff. Like it shouldn't stop you if a handful of people aren't into it,
Right.
And I'm on my website right now looking at like the current stuff that I have up, and it's like the last the first two pieces are the most recent cuz I have my work in order from like most recent. And it's like the last two were commissions for friends of animal drawings, and I am terrible at drawing animals. It's like I've stylized people. My animals are not quite as stylized because I'm still learning like animal anatomy and stuff, and I still rely very heavily on references, much more than I do for people. But it's like I'm proud of them because it's like it's the best animal work I've done so far. And it's like I'm sure when I look at these in a few years, and hopefully we'll have done more animal work, it's like it might not be as good, but it's like, I started, it's like I took that chance. I took on these commissions because one, I didn't want to turn down money. But it's like I took on these commissions as a challenge. And it's like I need to improve.
Yeah.
And I think I learned a lot from doing these. And it's like I finished them because, I took on that challenge.
Right. Right. And that's the other thing too. If when you're taking on challenges like that where there are things that you haven't drawn very much, I think that's especially where it's like just quiet the perfectionist. This is a learning time. Like you said, this is a time to just figure out how to do this and do it. Have fun. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to go. To fight perfectionism.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing today. I
Good.
was trying to um, draw a guy when I like never draw men.
Mm-hmm.
There you
So
go.
I'm like, I could do it, I could do it, but it's taking me a lot more.
Yeah,
But I'm like, just have fun, just try.
Yeah.
exactly. Just a challenge.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like when you do things that challenge you, like it's like double the growth.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, cause it's like on top of that, it's like say with these two like commissions, is that like kind of speaking back to that piece of like professionalism. It's like I completed these commissions. It's like I got paid. It's work. I now have a little bit more in my portfolio that's client work to show that isn't just fan art or just stuff that I drew because I wanted to. It's stuff that someone else paid me to do, you
Mm-hmm.
know
Yeah.
and it's like, and I'm proud of it, and I can show it, and I can be like, hey, this is where my skill level's at. If you like it, you too can give me money. um
Yeah, I mean, it's good that you did it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and like it's one of those things. Like, even if you think that it's going to be a challenge for you, and like you don't think it would be like professional to do it because you're not quite used to it, like that can be silly. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
still going to look like you made it in the end. And like,
Mm-hmm.
if someone's paying you to do something, they already like your work.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Very
And
much.
like their eyes are going to look at it so much different than
Yes.
yours.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And the only way you're going to grow is to challenge yourself. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you let perfectionism keep you afraid
Mm-hmm.
of taking those challenges because maybe it won't look as like your other stuff or maybe it won't look as professional,
Mm-hmm.
um, then you lose that chance to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you might as well grow and just get better and better and better.
Absolutely. Yes.
Till you're the awesomest.
Yeah.
It's like take every chance you can get to do something that's different.
Yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
I remember in school once, like, I got assigned like the worst editorial illustration.
Mm.
Like the worst. It was Bill Cosby.
Oh, so
And
hard.
so like I went for it.
Yeah.
Um and I was like, I'm gonna do it. So I came up with some kind of gross concepts. Not like so gross that like I wouldn't do it, right? But like
Mm-hmm.
some things that were just kind of like, one was like a take on, creepy pudding pops, stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. But I remember I just went for it and I tried. And this wouldn't happen in a real life situation, but at least in school, our teacher was just like, you tried really hard, but this is not going to help your portfolio.
Right.
So you can do something else. I was like, thank the Lord. But but I think like the fact that I even sat there and tried to come up with a concept that would halfway go between meeting the concept and things that I make, like
Mm-hmm.
it challenged me and I was moderately successful.
Yeah.
And you learn, and it's good. I'm all about also just like challenging yourself, giving yourself little challenges and things, because then you won't be so bogged down by that perfection issue later when
Mm-hmm.
requested to do something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Right. So, I have a question for you both.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm I'm curious. What does being professional mean to you? Either with clients or customers or for yourself in the way you run your business. Like, what does that mean?
Who wants to go first? I'll do it.
Do it.
Tell me.
For me, I think like the biggest thing that I've learned is always just communication. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
update the client on what you're doing, or if there's a problem, like tell them right away. Um, like as long as you keep communication open, like people are way more lenient with you and way more understanding.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot better than not saying anything and then all of a sudden it's a due date and you don't have anything. Like that's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Um, so really, and it's about being nice. I mean, that should go without saying, but like doing your very best not to be short with anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Like just trying to, you know, be approachable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also, don't talk to them super friendly unless you are super friendly.
Mm-hmm.
If they are your friend, then you can, be a little less professional, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but otherwise, it's like, like keep it to business, keep communication open.
Mm-hmm.
I think like another big thing is also this ties into communication is asking like a lot of questions, like to really make sure like
Yes.
you know what the client wants.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Because one little misunderstanding and you have to like redo all that work.
Yep.
And it's so ask all the questions.
Yes.
It saves both you and the other person time.
Yes.
Um, and be kind of like if someone's asking you to do something, make sure like they've looked at your work and
Mm-hmm.
like I think it's easy to be like, so you want something like this piece, and you can show them a piece you've already done,
Mm-hmm.
and be like, this is the kind of style you're looking for,
Mm-hmm.
or something that I have like asked people to do before is like say because I'm a visual person, I'm like, you obviously have a vision, like if you can give me some examples of things
Mm-hmm.
that you really like.
Yeah.
um I don't know how well that would work for like a company or something, but if it's one-on-one like commission, be like, give me some examples of the kind of art or colors or subject matter that you're really interested in, and that's like the direction you want me to go.
Yeah.
um just like, again, it's all really about communication and being open with the other person so that you could really try to narrow down quickly what you need to do
Mm-hmm.
and deliver things promptly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so to me, that's really all of it for the most part. Um,
Yeah.
most issues can be avoided that way.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, don't be late.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think those are the important points.
Yeah, those are good tips for sure.
Yeah, I agree with so much of that, especially, I mean, just to, I guess, emphasize, we are saying, it's like communication is so important. Um, just for so many reasons. Like when you're a good communicator, you really kind of like develop a reputation for integrity.
Oh, yeah.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think that is so important to have as a professional, to be known for your integrity, of just like, yeah, it's like
Sorry.
No
it's
worries.
fine. It just made me so happy. I was like, dog. But like just being like just having other people know, that like you can be relied on, to get a certain quality of work done, and like meeting deadlines, so on. It's like that, I think, is super important. And it's like, as much as I am, like, personally, I'm the kind of person where it's like, I don't care about reputation. Like, I don't care about, people think of me and so on and so forth. But I think where like I don't care personally, I put all of that attention in my professional life,
Mm.
where I'm like, it's extremely important that people see my work and my brand in this way, because it's like, this is how I want to be seen as an artist.
Right.
Like, it's not even necessarily like, oh, I want to be compared to like these artists or whatever, such and such artists. For me, it's more like, no, it's like, I want people, it's like, when they think of my art, I want them to, like, think of what my work looks like, and know that, like, I will get work done, you know
Right.
and it's like that I do it well and that I care about it.
Mm-hmm.
um like, I like, when it comes to professionalism, it's, I mean, I feel like I'm about to start just saying the same things in different ways, but it's like, I just have, like, eh, I think a very rigid sense of ethics when it comes to my art and professionalism. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like I feel like I'm very extreme with, like, my expectations, and I think that's why, like, I struggle when it comes to, like, working in, like, teams and groups, because the expectations that I put on myself, I kind of, like, internally put them on other people,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm afraid to, like, express that outwardly, because I'm just like, I don't want to be, forcing my expectations on other people. But it's just like, obviously, at this point in my life, it's like, I know now too that, like, if I don't communicate that with other people, it's like, that is also not professional. It's like, if you are working with other professionals, you need to communicate what your expectations are, not just from yourself or from other people, but, like, from everyone as a team, if you're working on a team.
Right.
I think that's, like, one of the biggest things I've learned. And honestly, like, that kind of communication is, like, a very universal life skill, honestly.
It
Just kind of
is.
like knowing how to sort of just be open and vulnerable, because it's like, vulnerability is also super important in a professional setting. Um, just being like, hey, this is where I'm at. And it's like, if, you're not in a great place, if you're not doing well, you need to tell people.
Right.
It's so important, so that, like, if you're working with a client, they know that, like, okay, we've reached a roadblock. They communicated this to me, and we worked something out, you know,
Right.
instead of just like, oh, something happened to this artist, I don't know what, but they just kind of fell off the face of the earth.
Right. It's that communication again. So,
Mhm.
so, so important.
It's so vital.
It really, really is. Yeah. Yeah. Um, I agree with all of those things.
Yeah.
I think those are extremely important, and do help to, um, I think, give you a reputation as being someone who is good to work with and someone who is professional. I
Mhm.
would also add for myself that one that's extremely important to me is sweating the details. And this
Mm.
walks the fine line of that perfectionism thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I feel like it's something that's so important. It's
Yeah.
so important to. So, this is going to be a weird balance, I think, because you have to know when it's getting overboard, and it's not
Mhm.
always easy. But I think you do need to sweat the details. You do need to cross the T's and dot the I's. You do need to make sure that you've got contracts in place.
Mm.
You do need
Mhm.
to make sure that you do your research and that you um, care about how your website looks, care about how your table at a convention looks, care about
Yeah.
what you're wearing at a convention, what your business card
Mhm.
looks like, um, care about what your art looks like as a whole. Care about what the themes are in your art and how you can
Yes.
represent those graphically,
Yes.
with graphic design. Care about, just care about the promises you make, and
Yeah.
care about the things you agree to do. I just always think that it's so important
Mm-hmm.
to keep track of those details, and I know it can get super overwhelming and it can get very stressful and easy to forget. So
Mm-hmm.
I think finding an organization system that works for you, finding some sort of way to write lists or keep notes, I think is really important.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
when you care about all those little things, it shows. It
Yes.
shows to your audience, it shows to your
Yes.
clients that
Yes.
you can stand by your work.
Yes, 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 yes. Oh, I have a story for this. So when
Please
I
tell your
was
story.
here's the story. So when I was working at the Renaissance Fair,
Uh-huh.
I was part of a singing group. I don't know if I told the story already, but I was part of a singing group, and a lot of times we would sing to really low crowds when there was another big show.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a really great director, and he made a point of saying before one of our really beautiful songs, he was like, to the audience, like the three people that were there, he was
Mm-hmm.
like, listen close. This one's really special. And it was.
Yeah.
For those three people that were listening, it was the most beautiful thing they had ever heard.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I feel like it's the same thing with art, and it's how I approach doing my booth. It's
Yes.
that, yeah, listen close.
Yeah.
This is really special. And
Absolutely.
I may not feel that always. I may be really stressed and tired, and I may be like stressed about my art, but I think it's really important to put that aside and
Mm-hmm.
to try and convey that to the customer and to
Mm-hmm.
the people walking by that this is really special.
Yes.
So, and so
That's so
when,
sweet.
yeah, I love that story.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's such an important thing to remember, because I definitely have, days at conventions where it's like I'm just burnt out and I'm just like counting the hours and I'm like, ugh.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like I try not to let that bog me down. I try to continue my interaction as I normally do,
Yes.
because it's like when people see you that you're enthusiastic about sharing your work, it's like they'll take an interest. Like, even if they're not going to buy anything, even if it's not their cup of tea, it's like they're willing to, step up and listen to what you have to say to them.
Yeah,
It's like it will get your word into their ears, when you care.
exactly. That's the whole point. I think
Yeah.
showing that you care, and having that come from your work too, that you care about your
Mhm.
work.
Mhm.
You know, I think that's so important.
Yeah. Um I have a sort of a small request for you guys that I kind of came up with as we were going through this episode.
Yeah?
Uh, just because like I was like going back and looking at the website, looking at the portfolio, and kind of just being like, doing something that like I never really did before, and I feel like I'm getting better at it. But like, looking at pieces and like acknowledging that like they're good pieces. Um, I was wondering if and it's okay to say no, but I was wondering if you guys would be interested in like even if it's just on like Instagram or wherever on your website or something, but like what from like the recent stuff, even or even older stuff that you put up, what's something that like you can look at and just be like, no, I worked really hard on that, I did a good job.
Oh, yeah.
Like on our personal
Yeah,
websites?
like your from your work, from your portfolio, from your body of work.
Uh,
Oh,
nothing.
really?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. Uh, that's a tough question.
Yeah,
Because,
it is.
like I said earlier, like when I finish something, I'm like, well, could have done that better.
Well,
Um,
like even from like what like you do have up or like cuz okay, so like say like do you have anything up that's like older than a
I do. Okay,
yeah.
I have one. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, I have a pencil piece I did
Mhm.
last year, over a
Mhm.
year. It was over a year ago, beginning of
Yeah.
last year, and it's my thunder lizard one. So it's like the portrait of um I forget which dinosaur it is, but it looks like a
Mhm.
brontosaurus. I don't think it is a brontosaurus.
Uh-huh.
Um, on a human body, and
That
then
sounds
like
amazing.
yeah, it's on my website under illustration, and I look back at it, and there's certain parts of it that I think are really nice,
Yeah.
and
Good.
like I think that like in some of the like smoke I drew and in some of the little scaly textures, I'm like that looks nice, and I think that looks really good,
Yeah.
and I wish it was on a different piece that was like painted. One day maybe I'll go back and paint it.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
because I just think parts of it, I'm like, yeah, so okay, there, I have one.
Oh,
It's
okay.
that one.
I see it.
It's the first one under
Yeah.
illustration. Yeah.
Yeah. This is an awesome piece.
It
It's
doesn't like it's not like my other stuff.
yeah.
Well, that whole section really is different stuff that isn't
Well,
like my normal stuff.
but it still feels like the quality of your like it still feels like you even though it's like it's different.
Yeah. That one's pretty okay. Like
Yeah.
I think it's
I
interesting.
I also really love the one that you have next to it with the eye.
Yeah, me too.
My mom likes it too.
I like
Yeah,
both of those pieces.
yeah. They're fantastic pieces.
I think the eye one would be good too.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, thank you for making an effort and like actually taking a look, Jess. I
I did
know
my best.
yeah, I know it was difficult for you, so I appreciate you indulging my request.
Sonnett, your
Sonnet.
turn.
I'm actually really happy because I have this as a print this year, which is making me
Mhm.
happy. But it's my
Mhm.
old Boneharp Muse Theater Ghost red piece with the wings.
I
I
remember that
Yeah,
one.
I did it in school, and I still love it. Um, I mean, like there are things I would do to update it now, but for me, I felt like
Mhm.
the concept was sound.
Yeah,
You
And
worked
absolutely.
hard on that one.
I did work hard on this one, and I still feel like it invokes the feeling of the song for me.
Yeah. It's such a rich piece.
Thank you. Thank
I
Like
you.
love it.
yeah, it's good. Like because I'm also like picturing it with like your art now
Yeah.
Yeah.
too. So
Yeah.
I'm like I wish you would do it now.
I
But
know,
yeah,
me
like
too, right? Like
it's got good
it
color.
would be a lot
It's
better.
got good composition.
I don't know, it's
Yeah.
just interesting to me. So that's the
Yeah,
one I like.
it's absolutely beautiful. Yeah, it like I think that the great thing about pieces is that like even if they're a bit older, it's like you can see your style and it's like seeing the evolution from then to now. It's so fascinating and so like inspiring to see because it's like yeah, it's like you've had this style, this kind of like little like flair in your work, that it's like it's still there and it's just getting stronger.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
definitely.
Vickie, it's your
Like
turn.
so one of the
Yeah.
I think the piece that made me want to do this is that so on my website, towards at the bottom I have the production section, and that's from when I did an internship at with National Geographic. And there was this one episode where we had to make kind of like fake movie posters
Mm-hmm.
about that were like set in space, and there was like a different concept for each movie, and it's like these posters took up less than 1 second on screen, but I put so much work and so much love into these that like they're at the top of the section because they're my favorite pieces.
Nice.
And my absolute favorite, most favorite one is the fourth one. That it's funny
Yes.
because like the concept was probably like the least compelling concept of the four, which was like space diva.
But it's my favorite one. I was hoping you were
Yeah,
gonna say
I know,
it.
mine
it's
too.
I love how it came out. It's like I'm so happy with like how her suit looks. Like I like for well for one, I was doing this um on my Surface Book, which I had just gotten, and I was trying to get the hang of working on it, and it was constantly crashing because these posters were massive, because they were like full size movie posters
Wow.
that you would see at like a movie theater because they printed them that large. Um, and so my computer was crashing constantly. My brand new computer.
Oh no.
But like I got through it and I got it done, and it's like I was doing things that I had never done before because it's like I was presented with this challenge where they're like, "Oh, it's like we want to have this kind of feel to it now." And it's like I had an image in my head of like, "Yeah, this is how it's got to look." And it's like I needed this to look like that kind of very like 80s latex glam
Yeah.
type of feel. And
And you did it.
yeah, it's like
Mhm.
my biggest thing was like I gotta make this look shiny. It's like her suit has to look glossy as fuck.
It
And
Can we
does.
it's
just
like I'm glad because like I pulled it off.
well, can
Yeah.
we just talk about the disco ball
Yeah.
So
The helmet.
awesome.
headpiece?
Yeah.
So awesome.
Because like
Yeah.
I just feel like that's such a good concept and you really like
Yeah.
I'm like I get it instantly looking at it. It's like a
Mhm.
space helmet but a disco ball.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I get it.
Yep.
It looks really good. Okay.
Thank you.
It's really
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, and like I was in this thing at that time where like because like I was in my mind I was fighting this like one person like art revolution of like the idea of like using certain complementary colors that like people are used to using, because it's like normally we see a lot of like kind of like blue with like orangey or sometimes yellowish, that is I think I feel like was super common for a long time. And I was just like, I need to do something else. I'm like, I'm gonna use two other like another set of compliments that I feel like I don't see as much, and that I don't use as much because of whatever reason. Maybe I didn't like them before, but it's like I'm gonna make myself like them essentially. Um, and that's kind of what I did with this piece. I'm like, red and green, it's like, how can I push that? You
Maybe
Right.
an
know,
electric pink.
yeah, it's like where and when has it worked before? And it's like, yeah, it's like 80s 90s aesthetic, kind of like Memphis pattern. It's like real like over the top. you know
Yeah.
but
Turned out
yeah,
great.
thank you. I like I will go to my website and like expect to look at some of my older pieces and be like, ugh, like I can do better than that. But I'm just like, well, I probably can do better than that, but it's like this is a great piece. It's
Yeah.
like this isn't bad.
Yeah. And that's such a good point, Vickie. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we can look back and we can still say, "Hey, this was a cool piece. This is something we made and it was cool and it was fun,
Yeah.
you know?
You know, real quick, if I was you, you could even like pull that piece out and put it also in your other section, your illustration section.
Yeah. I've thought about that. My brain keeps fighting against it for the sake of like the way I organize things because I'm just like, oh, but it was from this specific thing. But I'm also just like, but it's a
You can
good
put it in
piece.
both.
Yeah. Totally. I might actually bring those, like add those 4 pieces to like the regular illustrations just because I think they visually fit better with my other stuff too.
Like I think that you should still keep that section.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, like I would just also add them to the other one. They can show
totally.
up twice.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
But yeah, I thought this would be a good sort of enriching, empowering exercise for us to do. And I hope people listening at home do the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, it wasn't bad. It was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.
It's good to love your work.
It is. It is good.
Yeah, now I'm looking at some other stuff too, and that one's nice.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
gotta appreciate the work you put into stuff.
Yeah. Exactly.
Fair.
And on that note, we should close it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've run a little long, but this was a really good discussion. And
Absolutely.
I agree.
yeah, learned a lot, which is good. And I'm a little punchy now. So, you've been listening to Through Dangers Untold. Our logo was created by Karen Hodo, and you can find her online at kmhododesigns.com. You can find me at sonnettshline.com and also on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch, though I'm taking a little bit of a break this month for shows and just taking a break. And let's see. And then, Vickie, where can they find you?
You can find me anywhere on the internet. Vicstifer, my website is vicstifer.com. If you're interested in watching me flail and try to figure out how to make a big old graphic novel, you can support me on Patreon at patreon.com/Vicstifer. You can follow me on Twitter at Vicstifer, Instagram at Vicstifer, Facebook.com/Vicstifer. Follow me and I don't know, check out the goofy stuff I post. It's almost never serious. Yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
You can find me on my website, which is Jessica R. Bishop, which is my first name, initials, and then last name. And then you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at JRU Bishop, which is my initials and last name.
Yeah.
Excellent. And we hope you can join us next month on July 10th. And thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next month.
Woo!
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.